As Tumblr user Falling Towers once said, "It's insane how Disco Elysium is a game about investigating a murder, but it's also a game about exploring the wreckage of ideology, but it's also a game about wanting to fuck Kim Kitsuragi, but it's also a game about how none of that matters because at some point the world's just going to dissolve into pure entropy anyway." As I hope that Tumblr post illustrated, Disco Elysium is a game about a lot of things, but its opening is quite literally about nothing. It is aggressively lacking in substance, just an utter vacuum. When you first gain consciousness, you're surrounded by a textureless void. A voice calling itself Ancient Reptilian Brain describes it in flowing prose, and from this point onward, you are a new man. You can uncover details about your time before the void, but they're never directly recalled. At most, you find a task feels oddly familiar, and you can only conclude it's something you used to do often. It's a surprisingly nuanced take on amnesia. Instead of merely hitting your head, your sense of self is intentionally annihilated in a maelstrom of drugs, alcohol, and self-loathing. But that's not the only result of your lengthy and destructive bender. It doesn't just separate yourself from your memories, it separates you from everything. From the moment you wake up, the only way you interact with the world is through a cast of 24 shattered aspects of your psyche, externalized representation of who you used to be. In all the marketing material, this framing device is referred to as a unique skill system, which is a good way of marketing a game like this. When you're trying to convince people to buy something, it's integral that you connect it to something they already know. Why spend time explaining what sets your game apart when you can just say, it's like Metroid, it's like Dark Souls, it's like Doom, it's like this thing you already know and love and bought? That's not going to change anytime soon. It's just how capitalism and the human mind work. Niche yourself and you've dug your own grave. Appeal to the widest possible demographic and you might just survive. That's part of why Disco Elysium is so fascinating to me. There is nothing else like it, and I don't think there will be for a long, long time. But why is that? What's in this story-rich, choices matter CRPG that makes it so blindingly unique to the point of unmarketability? Well, it's a lot of things. It's everything the trailer won't show you. It's something you'd never expect to find in a game, much less appreciate. It's the French. Not really, but that is part of it. When it comes to the public image of a country, there's a fine line between branding and stereotype. France rides that line like a unicycling tightrope rider. For every trait the public assigns this hexagonal little plot of land that nurtures an image of class and exoticism, there exists another you can blurt out for cheap comedy. Here, it's easy, I'll show you. The national flag of France. But one that I don't think we talk about enough is the pretentious French film. These guys basically invented film as we know it when they wanted to get a better look at how Venus moves and proceeded to terrorize their own population with the first ever horror movie, L'arrivée d'un train en guerre de la Ciotat. It may not be much today, but this, allegedly, caused French moviegoers to flee the theater for fear of being run over. Yeah, most experts today say it's an urban legend and didn't really happen, but that's just what they want you to think. These are the same folks who used an 8-minute tracking shot of a traffic jam to express existential dread about the overconsumption of the ruling class. There's clearly a through line here with public transportation, abject terror, and the French. I will not be told otherwise. Anyway, the French New Wave that shot belonged to is where you'll find the soul of Elysium, at least in a very general sense. The movement was a byproduct of World War II, like most European things from the 50s. After getting their culture trampled upon by the Nazi war machine for years, French cinema fell back on old classics. While this was helpful for re-establishing a strong cultural identity, it was very frustrating for artists and moviegoers who were sick of classical French film. François Truffaut was so fed up, he wrote Une certaine tendance du cinéma français, a manifesto on the stagnation of French film, published in Cahiers du Cinéma in 1954. A bunch of other critics from the magazine apparently agreed and started making some weird movies, once following auteur theory, where the director has final say over every aspect of the final product, a perfect style for visionaries looking to throw convention out the window. Not only is Disco Elysium dripping with French names and references, it replicates that radical style with its lack of graphical fidelity and its focus on writing over gameplay. However, at this point, Disco Elysium diverges from the French New Wave quite drastically. While those films frequently base their plots on current events and real-world political issues, Disco tackled the same themes, but in reverse, creating a world that mirrors our own in many ways, but only seems to do so through an artistic form of convergent evolution. Just as our decapods evolved into crabs no less than 5 times, monarchs named Philippe are the herald of a dying kingdom. Even outside of that, this world is a bizarre reimagining of a city somewhere in Europe, somewhere in the 20th century. And I say somewhere because for everything that fits the real world like a glove, there's an aspect of it that reminds you that this is a world with 8,000 years of alternate history behind it. Studio Zelm has repeatedly stated that they are writers first and foremost, and it shows. There are cars, but they're called motor carriages, and they're built like you put Model T wheels on a crane cabin with a massive engine strapped to the back. There's body armor, but it's made of ceramic plates that fit together like scales. There's a British kid, but instead of being unbearably obnoxious, he's obnoxiously unbearable, and I love him. Hail to the Kuno. In case a likable British character didn't give it away, this world is completely foreign past the surface level. From the airships hanging over Revachol to the ships in the bay, this is a city that never existed, but nonetheless takes form. Generated not from creativity and tired artists, but from history exactly as tangible as our own. This sentiment is perfectly exemplified by the outro of the Disco Elysium art book.
Revachol, moreover, lost Scholar del Mest, now that I could write. An implacable air hung over the states and cities, the cold light of the mind. Grand, a quality we've come to call elliptical. Even basic terms for everyday machinery needed to be changed to preserve this intangible quality. The world around us was getting larger and darker. To keep up, Elysium needed to be even larger and more terrifying. Moreover, the world that ends all worlds ought also be more beautiful than reality. Therein, a picture began to unfold before us. The real world and its 8,000-year history were not so small and easy to outdo. There were obscure wonders, like the settlement of Pyramiden in the Antarctic, or Sir Francis Younger's Fund, alongside grand central events like the French Revolution. This, by way of Soviet-era textbooks, led us to the central principle of Elysium's world building. Elysium, the grand, impenetrable system of G.W.F. Hegel. The philosophy of history taught us two things. First, any truly believable world not only has, but is, history. Second, the only believable history is progress. A domino tumble of opposing ideas has led us here. Yet built worlds exist in stasis. They are theme parks, where the past is not at all different from the present. The old republic is precisely like the new republic. Lame as balls. Commercial paracosms are static, reduced versions of reality. We did not want a commercial paracosm. We wanted all that is interesting and terrible about history, and only that. Magnified, rarefied, spreading outward from reality like a dark gray solar corona, the crowning ceremony of the world.
This game's writing is so damn dense that this script is by far the hardest I've ever written. Even for something like Fallout Equestria, there's always something tangible to grasp onto and deconstruct. The themes make themselves very presentable. Hell, they're sometimes explicitly stated. The self-destructive nature of a protagonist hurts their loved ones just as much as it hurts them. Virtue can be a good moral foundation, but it can be corrupted as easily as anything else. The nature of a hero is different for everyone because everyone's the hero of their own story. Disco Elysium is kind of about how no matter what we believe, we're still people at the end of the day and it's our duty to look out for each other, but that's so broad it could be applied to any game with a companion system. Maybe it's about how the state is inherently fallible and should never be viewed otherwise. The creators are self-proclaimed anarchists turned Marxists, and you play as a very, very fallible agent of the state, but the storytelling is far too focused on individuals for that to make sense. The overtly political parts were added in a post-launch update, so that's more of a theme of the final cut. Maybe it's about God sending his toughest battles, remembering your own name, to his most mentally ill soldier. Maybe it's about all of those things. It probably is, but it never feels that way when you play it. When you stop trying to compartmentalize every line of dialogue into the themes they reinforce, it's about exploring a completely new world and its people. A frustratingly dense, magnificently realized world. The best/worst part of this game's world building is that it's presented organically. I would have loved to come across a book that explains the world's history from beginning to end as thoroughly as possible. There's one that comes close, but Harry's poor brain is too scrambled to understand any of it. History is mostly presented through its consequences. We don't see the ant-centennial revolution, we explore the bombed-out buildings left in its wake and interrogate the people involved. There is one person who's knowledgeable enough to educate you on the state of the world, but even she rarely dips into history. Disco Elysium isn't interested in showing you the past. They made that very clear in the first fucking sentence. The old ways are dead, long live the now and the new. If only it were that simple. Getting a bit personal here, but I grew up in a tourist town. We had schools and doctors and churches and the infrastructure you'd expect, but the town's main industry was catering to the folks whose interest in the town itself started and ended at what hotel they were staying at. I've seen businesses that were once a fixture on my school bus's route close their doors and get replaced by yet another relic emporium. I know what it's like to see a city drown in its own past. Revachol is one of those cities. When you find it, it's known as the disgraced former capital of the world, worn down by 2 consecutive takeovers, one by communist revolutionaries, the next by the moral intern, the closest thing to an international authority in Elysium. Its past is written not in books, but in the yawning craters and pockmarked bullet holes that permeate the landscape. You, the city, and the world are more alike in this than not. In the first few days, the game reminds you over and over again that Harry fucked up big time. It is impossible from a gameplay standpoint to completely do away with pre-Bender Harry. You're in debt to your hotel, your lost gun is used as a bargaining chip, and a hideous parody of a smirk is glued to your face. But one character doesn't particularly mind. He's annoyed, sure, who wouldn't be, but he's more than willing to help you get back up and function like a real person for once. Kim Kitsuragi is by far the most memorable character from Disco Elysium, and I think this post by Weevils does a fantastic job summing up why that is. While Kim Kitsuragi is an amazing character, and I do not mean to diminish that, I think a big reason why people are so obsessed with him is wish fulfillment. The idea of being at your lowest point, absolute rock bottom, and still be treated kindly and patiently and respectfully without being swaddled. That someone would look at you, pathetic and miserable and confused, and still take a bullet for you. The idea that no matter how much of a fuck-up you are, you can still do things that this put-together, competent man cannot. And that you can still make him smile, enjoy himself, that your relationship is not just taken, but also given. Kim Kitsuragi is not happy about the situation, and he has every right to that. But still, he tells you, "Okay, you have clearly lost the plot. Let's put one foot in front of the other and see where that leads the two of us. And that's all you need to step away from the abyss." And really, that's what Disco Elysium is actually about. It's about starting from primordial nothingness, an endless self-imposed doom spiral, and being a superstar in spite of it. You will be brought low by this cruel, bleak world. You will fuck up in ways you didn't even know were possible. But as long as you've got Inland Empire, you can imagine a better future. As long as you have shivers, you can understand this city in a way no others can. And as long as you have Kim, you can pull yourself to your feet and live in spite of it all. When I was working on this video, Zaum fired Disco Elysium lead designer Robert Kurvitz, writer Helen Hindpear, and art director Alexander Rostov due to pressure from investors. It would be a fitting conclusion if it weren't so damn heartbreaking. With creative leads gone because of money-hungry investors and a TV adaptation picked up by fucking Amazon, the prediction I made at the start feels more plausible than ever. Disco Elysium will live on. Even if it's pulled from store shelves, it'll be circulated in the darker corners of the gaming landscape, where people who actually care about the medium will be forced to go if projects like these are treated the way they are. I'm not going to try and spin this into a positive. It is a unilaterally bad thing when creatives are disenfranchised by corporate interests. Just don't let Elysium die. As much as capitalism wants to, you can't own an idea, not fully at least. You can keep on building Elysium when corporations tear it all down. I've got a great place to start, linked in the description. I pray we'll meet again. B. Swearpants says, "To be honest, being eaten alive by the fangs of capital, the very own thing your art was criticizing, is the most disco death there could be." Papa Smoke says, "Disco Elysium patch 1.1.1 removed all mentions of communism and revolution, replaced with McDonald's and hamburger." Ram.exe says, "Still love Disco Elysium with all my heart and will continue to make art for it, but Zaum, if you're reading this, I hope you trip and eat shit, lol." Christian Stepmom says, "The Zaum debacle is so heart-wrenching. Man, it's tragic, it's poetic, it's literally more of a thematic sequel to Disco Elysium than anything the remaining shell of a company will ever be able to churn out. So fucking bleak." The Milano bitch says, "I was so caught up in the euphoria that is Disco Elysium that I forgot we live in a world where the creative industry is a goddamn fucking nightmare." Jesus fucking Christ, Zaum, what the fuck?